A woman is holding onto the leg of a man as she curses at him for trying to use their daughter, Huan, to pay off his debts. She then begs him to let go of their daughter and says that she will pay the debt he owes to brother Hui by working more shifts for that. The man silently carries his daughter as she continues calling her mother with teary eyes. This man is Tianchen. With a serious expression on his face, he tells her that whatever he earns isn't even enough for 2 rounds of gambling, and then he asks her if she really doesn't know what brother Hui is like. Tianchen then grabs his wife by her hair and yells at her as he says that if they don't pay the debt by the next day, then brother Hui would truly tear them apart and sell their parts just to get his money back. He then throws her away and tells her to stay out of his way. Tianchen continues to walk towards the door while Huan calls out to mother with teary eyes. Suddenly, her mother runs and grabs Tianchen along the way, stopping him in his tracks as she demands him to let go of her daughter and give her back to her. She then suddenly hits his chin with her head as he grabs Huan away from him. His foot accidentally falls on a glass bottle and he slips on it. He then falls to the ground on his head with a loud sound. As blood starts flowing out of head from him, slipping on the bottle and hitting his head hard on the ground, his wife looks at him with a look of worry and slight sorrow on her face. Holding on to her mother, Huan starts crying as she mentions how scared she is of whatever is happening right now. Kneeling in the ground while holding Huan in her arms, she consoles her saying that everything's okay now and that it's finally all over. Suddenly, some people break into his house demanding that he pay back his debt. Looking at Tianchen's unconscious self, the man asks him if he's trying to play dead now and that he'll still have to pay even if he's dead. Looking at his wife and daughter, the man asks her if he's saying anything wrong. His wife then suddenly shouts at them, calling them bandits and scum, and tells them to get out of her house while the surrounding crowd hears all that. Hearing that shout, the crowd gathers up in front of their door. That man then suddenly walks towards them and yells at them, saying that they should scatter away and not mind their matter. He adds on by telling them that they're legally collecting debts. Amongst the crowd, an old man speaks up saying that there is no law as to how the debt collectors are now kidnapping children. Closing in with a sly grin on his face, the man then asks the old man if he's sure about getting involved into something that doesn't mean anything to him. He continues with another question, asking him if he wants him to bring his guys his house and pull the money off of him. Making up an excuse as to how he forgot to take off the soup from the stove, the old man turns his back and walks away in worry. The others do so as well. Turning back, the man sees Tianchen's wife holding a knife in her hand as she announces that anyone who comes near her dies with her. Seeing that, the man and his underlings all start to laugh at her attempt to threaten them with a knife. The man then walks towards Tianchen's wife and says how he's been already playing with a knife since she wasn't even born, and then suddenly he grabs her hand and pulls the knife out of it. He then leans in towards her while ogling her chest and says that he'll show her how to properly use a knife. He then swings the knife with the intention of slashing her top and succeeds. With a lecherous look in his eyes, he looks at her half-bare chest while she holds up her tattered top, trying to cover herself with whatever is left of it, while tears start flowing out of her eyes. He licks the knife laterally as he commends Tianchen for having a good taste in women. Seeing her mother getting bullied by the bad guys, she crawls and suddenly bites the man's leg. Feeling the sting, the man looks back at her with gritted teeth. Soon one of his underlings grab Huan away as she calls out to her mother with tears welled up in her eyes. Grabbing onto her top, she tells him that she'll do anything if he'd just let her little daughter go. With a grin forming on his face, he asks her if she thinks she can negotiate with him. He then tells her that he will be taking everything he wants to. With tears running down her face, she curses at them for not fearing heaven's punishment for all this evil they are doing. Ignoring her pleas and curses, the man goes towards her chest with his hand while making a really lecherous expression saying that if the heavens really do exist, and they should strike him down this moment before his hand reaches her. And suddenly a lightning bolt pierces through the roof of their house and hits Tianchen's unconscious body. With a blood-smeared face, he grabs that man hand by his wrist while thinking to himself how this body is on the verge of death from blood loss, and that its constitution is the weakest, and that he'll have to end it quickly ASAP. With a furious look in his eyes, he tells that man to let the child go, take his thugs, and get lost this instant before he changes his mind. Taking his warning lightly, the man laughs back and asks him if he has finally gone crazy after hitting his head. With his hand still grabbed by Tianchen, the man rushes at him with his knife, ready to stab him, shouting out. He tells him that he'll first kill him. Skillfully, Tianchen easily grabs the knife in between his fingers. He then uses the technique called the Luo Tian Divine Assembly and releases his full potential. After releasing all his potential, he overwhelmingly snaps the wrist bone of that man. As that happens, tears run down his face like a river as he writhes in agony from the pain. One of the underlings raises their voice while pointing at Tianchen and asks him if he hasn't had enough of it, and how he could even dare to lay his hand on the boss, and warns him that he better not try to pull such a thing anymore. Hearing that, Tianchen throws a punch at their boss's face. With the force generated by his punch, their boss flies and hits one of his underlings. One of his underlings then holds their saying as to how he could even dare to hit their boss in front of them. Pointing out towards Tianchen, he calls to his fellow underlings and tells them to take him down right this moment and make him realize that they messed with the wrong people. He then confusedly looks at how his fellow underlings ran away just to protect their own skin, leaving Huan as they left. Standing up through the support of the only underling left, he says how there is no one in this world with honor. He then looks at his underling, calling him brother with a bloodied nose. He says how there's still loyalty in this world even then. Pointing at Tianchen, he tells him to attack Tianchen, and if he were to successfully defeat him, then he will promote a ladder up the food chain in their business. Not heeding to his command, the underling runs away, saying that he'll warn Brother Hui and that he will let him come to avenge him, while their boss continues looking at his back with a shocked expression as he runs away. He then looks back up at the scary Tianchen standing in front of him. He stutteringly tells him that he should be ready to face the consequences of offending Brother Hui with his life. Without any further ado, Tianchen coldly tells him to get out of his house. He then silently stands there in front of his daughter and wife with his back turned towards them. His wife then suddenly gets on her knees and hugs Huan, apologizing to her for making her suffer. Standing in front of them, Tianchen looks back and tells her to pack their things and leave quickly, and that they'll come back any time for them if they delay any longer. And suddenly, Tianchen falls to his knees while grabbing his bloodied head, while he thinks to himself that he has exceeded the limits of his physical body, and the wounds that he held back with his spiritual energy can't be stopped any longer. His wife then hurls over to him and supports him, while blood flows down from his head like a stream. She asks him as to what is wrong with him, and not to scare her so suddenly like that. With tired eyes, he looks up at her and asks her to help him heal. With a worried expression on her face, she tells him that they don't have any money for the hospital anymore. Holding his weakened body, she tells him that she will simply just borrow some from the neighbors to get him to the hospital. Tianchen suddenly grabs her wrist and pulls her closer to him and tells her to just follow his instructions. Standing farther away, Huan, with a curious look on her face, asks her mother as to what they two are doing. As Tianchen pulls her even closer to him with their bodies pressing against each other, she tells him that they are about to play house together. Huan innocently runs towards them, saying that she also wants to join in on the play as well. Sitting on Tianchen's lap with her hand on his shoulder, she stops Huan in her tracks and tells her that it's her bedtime and that she should go to sleep right now, and promises her that they will play with her tomorrow. Hovering over to the bed, She asks her mother if she should cover her head as well. Suddenly, a light blush forms over her face on hearing Huan Huan ask that. With a rose-red blush forming on her face, she tells her to go to sleep and not to get up until she calls her. As Huan Huan goes to sleep, Tianchen asks her if they should begin already. With her sitting on his lap, he locks his leg below her and presses the key erogenous point, the Shen Shu meridian, right above her waist on the backside of her body, which makes her toe curl a bit, making her let out a soft moan as he pressed on it. With an unreadable expression on her face, she asks Tianchen as to why he is thinking about that currently. Without any further warning of what's to come, Tianchen suddenly kisses her, which makes her think how Tianchen is suddenly not behaving like himself and that he seems like a totally different person currently. She then soon melts into his kiss while thinking to herself that this home would have probably been destroyed if it weren't for him driving out those thugs. He then forms a hand sign behind her as he activates the divine classic of the cave. Healing Chapter. Yin-Yang Harmony. As she sits on his lap, he starts chanting a sutra, and golden strands of energy start to gather around them, while she starts moaning while making a pleasurable expression. Her body then suddenly arches back, and a red-colored essence flows out of her mouth which Tianchen consumes, and soon after, the power of the essence starts enveloping his wound to heal him. Back to another place, a bald person heavily hits a punching bag, pushing it away with his punch. The punching bag continues to swing around as a reaction to the punch from the bald guy. As it stops, a heavy breath comes out, while a certain area of the punching bag starts bleeding. That bald man then looks at the bloodied area of the punching and mentions how it feels so great to blow off some steam through a human punching bag, while a muffled voice emerges from the punching bag, calling out to Brother Hui. This bald person is Brother Hui. Struggling inside the punching bag with blood starting to drip from it, the beaten-up person mentions how Brother Hui said he would keep his word and leave his wife and child alone if he took it out on him. Walking away from the punching bag, he looks back at the punching bag and says how people on the street know that he keeps his word. But if he doesn't vent it out completely, he'll have no choice but to sell his wife and kid to Myanmar to harvest their organs. After hearing the truth, the man in the punching bag curses at him, saying that he will soon face retribution for all the evil he has committed, while Brother Hui snickers on hearing the exact same words everyone once told him. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him. These are the people who went to wreak havoc in Tianchen's house on Brother Hui's orders. They inform him that they weren't able to bring in the person he asked them to. Walking towards the punching and standing in front of it, getting into a punching stance, Brother Hui mentions how he told them over and over again before they left to bring over that little girl no matter what, as that girl is someone a great benefactor behind him specifically demanded. With a single punch, he rips the punching bag, making the person inside it fall out of it as he calls out to them for being really useless. Having him hung upside down, the blood from his mouth starts dripping below his head as Brother Hui mentions now no mistakes are allowed. He then turns his gaze towards them and asks if they really couldn't even handle a pathetic pimp. One of them speaks up, saying that it was that guy Jiang Tianchen and how he suddenly woke up like a zombie after lying cold on the floor for a while, and that he suddenly became incredibly strong after waking up and crushed their boss's hand, and they also couldn't beat him at all. Without saying much, he walks towards them. He then stands right in front of their boss and asks him how he crushed his hand. Brother Hui then suddenly grabs onto his other hand and crushes it, asking if it is like this how he crushed his hand. The boss guy then falls to his knees in pain from having his other hand crushed as well. Turning away, he orders his men to take him as he doesn't need useless people on his team. While being dragged away, the boss guy continues to beg Brother Hui to show him mercy and give him at least one more chance to prove himself. With a serious look on his face, he commands his men to grab their weapons and follow as he will himself go and bring that girl with him. Back at Tianchen's house, his wife is panting heavily with a satisfied look on her face. She is currently leaning over Tianchen while he grabs her with one hand. With a blank expression on his face, Tianchen thanks her for saving him, while she remains close to him with her head on his shoulder, with a slight blush on her face. With a look of embarrassment on her face, she says that he's not the real Tianchen, and that he was never so gentle with her, and that he never made her body feel so strange. Still in the moment, she looks right into his eyes and asks him of his identity while her hand remains on his chest. With a slight serious look on his face, he tells her of his real identity, that he's a celestial immortal who descended after suffering a calamity. With a surprised expression on her face, she asks him stutteringly if he's a god. As a reply, he positively reacts by telling her that he is. Huan suddenly wakes up and asks her if she's done playing house with her father. Covered in her blanket, she asks her mother if she can get up, saying that she is really hungry. Looking at Huan, her mother replies, telling her to get up quickly and freshen up and she'll make her something delicious to eat. Tianchen then turns his head back to face her and asks her to forgive him for he has taken a while. Suddenly, both their stomachs start making grumbling sounds. Letting out a giggle, she asks if immortals also need to eat food. With a smile on his face, Tianchen replies by playfully calling how rude she's being. She then stands up and tells Tianchen to go and freshen up as well, and that she will prepare a portion for him as well. Seeing her make noodles, Huan asks her if she will add an egg in it for her. While they continue to enjoy with their cooking, Tianchen looks at them having fun while cooking, and thinks to himself how has been cultivating the path of forgetting since youth, cutting off all ties and abandoned love, only to reach the great Tao. And he asks himself why his heart is fluttering with joy while watching those two. Huan and his wife walk towards the dining table, holding a bowl of noodles for each of them while smiling and laughing. That makes him think to himself if it is the feeling of home that's making his heart flutter like this. Suddenly, a hand breaks through their main door. Standing in front of their broken main door is Brother Hui, along with his henchmen. Thinking as if he's making an heroic entrance, he wishes them morning. Seeing Brother Hui in person, Tianchen's wife suddenly freezes in place and unknowingly lets go of her noodle bowl. As her noodle bowl starts falling down, Tianchen reflexively grabs it without spilling a single drop of its soup. Looking back at that person, Tianchen asks him of his identity, trembling in shock and fear. His wife mutters out saying that this person is Brother Hui. Scared of Brother Hui, Huan grabs her mother's leg and tries to hide behind her. Pulling the noodles up with his chopsticks, Tianchen tells them to not be afraid as he's already healed and that nobody can hurt them anymore. As Tianchen continues to eat his food, Brother Hui starts walking towards him and asks him if he's that pimp Chen, that handsome guy working for him. Slightly turning his head back, he tells him that he might still forgive him if he leaves them alone this instant. Brother Hui suddenly throws a punch in his direction. As the punch approaches him, Tianchen realizes that there is something really wrong with his Brother Hui guy. As the punch lands on him, which he does block with his hands, he still gets pushed back a lot deeper into the house because of how heavy and strong that lunch was. Holding out his fist, he arrogantly says that supporting characters die for talking too much. Seeing Tianchen lie on his back after getting hit by Brother Hui's punch, his wife and Huan call out to him and worry if he's okay or not. With a grin forming on his face, he mentions how his men weren't even able to take care of this trash by himself, making him interfere to take care of it, and how much they have shamed him for being so weak. With a grin on his face, one of his men approached him and asked what they should do with the mother of the child. Looking back at his henchman, he tells him that they can do whatever they want with her, and that they should make sure to properly bury her body when they are done with her. While Brother Hui lights up a cigarette, his henchman then starts walking towards Tianqin's wife and daughter as he thanks his boss for the reward. With a lecherous grin on his face, he brings his hand forward towards them while laughing at how great his luck today is. About to be separated and harmed, his daughter and wife call out to him with tears welled up in their eyes. In an instant, Tianqin hits the man on the face with his knee, sending him flying a long distance. While smoking, Brother Hui commends Tianqin for at least not being so bad and for surviving his punch. While Tianqin thinks to himself that this Brother Hui guy's strength is Superman and that his whole body gives off something strange. Throwing his cigarette, Brother Hui suddenly lunges at him with his hand pulled back, ready to punch him as he says how much he underestimated him. As he swings his hand, Tianqin dodges it by ducking. Suddenly, another punch comes his way, which he blocks with his hand to protect his wife and daughter behind him. Suddenly, a crack sound echoes around the room. It's the breaking sound of Tianqin's bone. Hearing that, Brother Hui laughs loudly, mentioning how he just heard a crack. While continuously punching Tianqin while he continues to block his attacks, Brother Hui loudly says how human punching bags are the best. As he continues, he commends Tianqin for being able to endure 80% of his strength and asks him to not die before he reaches his peak pleasure. While blocking off his attack, Tianqin thinks to himself that this weak body of his won't last long against his opponent's fast, precise, and powerful attacks. As he continues to block the attack, he suddenly realizes that he hasn't used that technique yet. Putting 2 fingers on his temple, he thinks to himself that this technique doesn't exactly require chi nor an extremely strong body. With his fingers on his head, he goes into the depth of his consciousness, calling out to the divine court martial arts to manifest. His eyes suddenly start emitting a golden light. He uses his divine will to create a mental space where 10 years pass in an instant, engaging the enemy while simultaneously simulating ultra-fast martial arts training in the mind. Brother Hui then suddenly appears beside him, holding his hand back, ready to punch him again while he asks him if he's trying to pull off an instant transmission from Dragon Ball. With the technique working wonders, Tianqin has now completed 10 years' worth of martial arts training, comprehending Hua Jin, transmutation force. He then easily dodges Brother Hui's punch while performing some sort of strange hand movement. He has now completed 20 years' worth of martial arts training, comprehending the Hua Jin unification. He easily blocks off Brother Hui's upcoming punch by blocking it and countering it with an elbow to his face. Pissed off after getting hit, Brother Hui curses at him and suddenly throws a kick his way, announcing loudly that he will completely cripple him. To his surprise, he suddenly stops his kick in its path and ducks with an intention to attack him. He has now mastered 30 years' worth of martial arts training, becoming a martial arts grandmaster, comprehending the state of perfect harmony. Charging forward at Brother Hui, he uses his elbow and hits him on his liver from beneath and sends him flying. Lying on the ground after getting beaten, he points at Tianqin and orders his men to chop him to death. Holding their sharp weapons, they dash at Tianqin, and Tianqin effortlessly throws them behind him with a single movement of his hand. He has now completed 50 years' worth of martial arts training, attaining complete martial enlightenment, leaping onto the true martial state. With a shocked expression on his face, as dried blood sticks by his mouth, he asks if Tianqin even knows how dangerous the person backing him is. Hearing that, Tianqin continues to blankly look at him. He then suddenly forcibly opens his third eye. Brother Hui continues that he will really be making a mistake if he dares to touch him. Ignoring his empty threats, Tianqin puts 2 fingers right in the middle of his chest. As he groans in pain, Tianqin pulls out a golden emblem-like thing from in between his chest, which continues to emit a blood-red aura around it. With his head down, tired, and totally out of breath, he asks him as to how he could know about it. As Tianchen holds that golden emblem in his hand, a blood-red demon-like being emerges from it, while Tianchen continues to look at it with a blank expression on his face. Calling his arrogance outrageous, Tianchen easily subdues the blood-red demon-like being easily with his great Luo divine might. Squeaking like a rat, it returns back into the golden emblem. Looking at the golden emblem in his hands, Tianchen says that this golden emblem is the Yin Mountain method, malevolent spirit possession, using the resentment of evil spirits to overdraw his life essence, letting him push his combat power to a fully unlocked potential state. Crouching to Brother Hui, he thinks to himself that it's now understandable how Tianchen's physical potential can't match his in the same unlocked state, because the one behind him isn't from the mortal realm. With a scared expression on his face, he says that they are all trying to make a living here and pleads with him to spare his life, and that he will let the girl go and will never come after her. With an angry look on his face, he tells him to take his men and get out of his house this moment before he changes his decision to let them leave without doing any more damage. As he stands there by the door, Brother Hui takes his men and walks out of his house, after getting utterly overwhelmed by Tianchen's power and techniques. As they leave, Huan suddenly runs towards Tianchen while calling out to him cheerfully. She then suddenly jumps into his arms, hugging him as she mentions how handsome her father is. Climbing further up, she gently places a kiss on his cheek. As she pulled away, Tianchen looked into his daughter's eyes while thinking to himself how warm it feels after receiving a kiss from a mortal child. With a smile forming on his face, he asks Huan if she really thinks that her father is handsome. Hearing his question, Huan cheerfully says that she does. Walking towards him, his wife suggests to him that they better run away before things start getting any further than it already has. With a slight blush forming on her face, she mentions how she totally forgot about Brother Hui after healing him yesterday. She then asks him if it was a right decision to let him go and that he might bring back even stronger people that threaten their peaceful life. As Tianchen lets Huan off his arms, his wife rushes towards him and tells him that they should hurry up and pack things to leave this house while they still have the time to. Holding her close while standing beside her, Tianchen tells her that he let Brother Hui go on purpose. Hearing that, she confusedly asks him as to why he did something like that. Looking into her eyes, he tells her how the spiritual energy in the mortal world is thin, and to cultivate immortality, ordinary meditation takes too long. Showing the golden emblem in his hand, he mentions that the people behind him are likely remnants of scattered cultivation lineages left in the mortal world after the separation of immortals and humans, perfect for their cultivation needs. With a surprised look on her face, she asks him if he really means to teach them to cultivate. With a warm smile on his face, Tianchen asks her if she's willing to join him in cultivating immortality and proving the Tao. Holding her father's hand, Huan asks him if immortals can fly in the sky. With a bright and cheerful smile on his face, he tells her that they surely can fly. With a cheerful, bright smile on her face, Huan excitedly agrees to it and mentions how she wants to fly in the sky with her father. With a concerned look on her face, she asks him how she and Huan should cultivate. Thinking of Huan, Tianchen tells her that Huan is still in her innate body, a pure yin maiden, and he'll refine elixirs for her and she just needs to take them for now. With that heartwarming smile on her face, she asks her father if elixirs are tasty and if he can add sugar into them. With a gentle smile on his face, he tells her that if she wants them sweet, then he will make them sweet for her. Pulling onto her father's hand, she cheerfully says that as long as they're sweet, she won't be picky at all. Looking at his wife, Tianchen mentions to her that as adults they have already passed their inner bodies, and their bodies are worn out from indulgence, with their kidney energy also depleted, and so the fastest way for them to cultivate would be dual cultivation. He then suddenly holds her close to himself and tells her that there's no time to waste, and they should start by now as there are many strong and difficult enemies for them to face ahead. Holding him close, she looks away with a blush as she asks him if it is appropriate to cultivate in broad daylight. Looking up at her parents with bright, cheerful eyes, she tells them that they better cultivate seriously. Continuing with her cheerful smile, she runs towards the door telling her parents that she's going out to play for a bit, hearing her announcing that her mother tells her to not go too far from the house. Holding her head out by the door, she asks her parents if one afternoon is enough for them to do cultivating. Hearing that, her mother stands there silently with a huge blush forming on her face. Tianchen holds her close, and suddenly, she asks him if they are going to have to use the same position as before. To answer her question, he grabs her by her waist and pulls her into his hands and says that they aren't going to be using the same method again. He then puts her in a weird position and tells her to calm her mind and follow his guidance. With a slightly worried look on her face, she complains about how her waist might not be able to take it. Tianchen suddenly as well gets into the exact same weird position right in front of his wife and connects each other's body through their foot as he reassures her to not worry and that it will feel comfortable soon. As the golden energy envelops her body, she thinks to herself how light her whole body currently feels and how she can even feel a warm, soothing energy flowing from him into her. She mentions how it feels like she's soaking in a hot spring. In karaoke, a handsome man is currently singing a song together with a red-headed beauty. And suddenly, Brother Hui arrives at the room where the handsome man is along with the red-headed woman. Opening the door to the room, Brother Hui calls out to the handsome man as Young Master Z. Seeing him arrive, Young Master Z looks in his direction and asks him if he brought him what he wanted as he seems to be coming in a real hurry, after saying that he returns to his singing. Brother Hui then suddenly falls to his knees and begs Young Master Z to forgive him. With a slight bit of worry showing on his face, he looks up at Young Master Z and mentions how Tianchen suddenly acquired some bizarre demonic arts, and that he was just a lowly pimp, but suddenly became terrifyingly powerful. He then bows his head down in front of Young Master C for disappointing him. He tells him that he brought a group of brothers, risking their lives, yet they were still no match for him. Hearing that, Young Master Z crushes the mic in his hand in anger. Seeing his anger, Brother Hui bangs his head on the ground, begging Young Master Sai to spare them and give them another chance to prove themselves. Getting up from his seat, he lets out a snicker and tells him that victory and defeat are common in battle and that he rewards and punishes with fairness. He then mentions how Brother Hui has served him for many years, working really hard and achieving much, so he deserves a reward. Young Master Z then pushes the red-headed woman towards Brother Hui and tells him to take her and enjoy. Holding on to her, with a grin forming on his face, he thanks Z for his generosity for giving him such a beauty to enjoy. Suddenly, without further warning, Z grabs Brother Hui's head tightly. Using his powers, he pulls out dark red energy strands from his head. While kneeling in front of him, Brother Hui asks him as to why he is doing this to him. Holding his head, Z tells him that he was rewarded for his merits, and it doesn't matter that he failed to bring in that little girl. With an angered tone, Z tells him that he must be punished for losing the magical artifact bestowed upon him. He then suddenly pulls out his soul from his body. As he fully pulls out his soul, his body suddenly goes limp while he is still kneeling. Seeing that the red-headed woman lets out a scream in fear. Without waiting any further, Z consumes his soul as he mentions how he will now have to intervene in such matters himself. With a scared expression on her face, the red-headed woman says that she'll take her leave if there's nothing for her to do here. Looking at her with a grin on his face, he mentions to her that her time isn't up yet, and her impatience just shows how much of an unprofessional she is. Pointing his finger at his forehead, Z then performs the ritual to refine a corpse. Letting out a cry, Brother Hui's body emits strong blood-red strands of energy. Standing up, he turns his gaze towards the red-headed woman and lunges towards her with his sharp claws to strike her down. As the corpse of Brother Hui fawns over the red-headed woman, Z then commands it to accompany him to fetch them personally. Back to Tianqin's side, he and his wife continue on with their dual cultivation while maintaining that weird position. After a while, Tianqin continues with his meditation while his wife, after working hard, has fallen asleep and finally wakes up. Seeing her wake up, he asks her how she feels. Stretching her body, she says that she feels more comfortable and relaxed than she ever has, and that the back pain she had after giving birth to Huan is also gone. With a warm smile on his face, he tells her that their physics bodies have reverted to the Xiantian state, brimming with vitality. He further says that they should continue with their cultivation. With a light blush forming on her face, she confusedly asks him as to what they should continue and if they are already done. Tianqin tells her that the enemies they will face next time can't be handled like mortals, and they must open the small heavenly circuit and enter the chi refining realm as soon as possible. Hearing that, she asks him that in TV dramas, entering the chi refining realm takes a long time, so how can they just enter the realm like that? Tianqin then pulls out the golden emblem. He tells her that conventional cultivation methods take a very long time, but he has spent 10,000 years comprehending the Tao in the upper realm and have long since seen through all techniques. And with this thing and dual cultivation, they can break through in a single night. Pointing at it, his wife reminds him how he earlier told her that it's sort of a demonic item. Tianqin then says that the essence of Taoist cultivation is to generate Jing, essence, transform it into qi, and refine qi into spirit, or Shen. He then continues that the most basic methods of generating essence are ceasing breath to enter meditative absorption. He then tells of the second method being the bliss of emptiness in dual cultivation. Moving on to the last method, the plundering method, he tells her that it is a common practice for demonic cultivators to rapidly increase their cultivation base. He then mentions how the Yishan sect uses the body of Sha children to forcefully stimulate the physical body while storing the generated essence within it. Leaving towards it, she asks him if he means that there is essence inside this golden emblem. Tianqin mentions that this plundering tool is extremely crudely made and its effect is very poor. He then says that if were made by any lowest level demonic cultivator from the past, then a single plundering session would be enough for them to reach the peak of chi refining realm. He says that this much is enough for them. Looking at her, he tells her that only by breaking through as soon as possible, they would finally have the power to protect Huan. With a determined look on her face, she asks him as to what she should do. Holding the golden emblem in his mouth, he pulls her into his lap once again and tells her to bite down on the ghost tablet and follow his guidance. As she bites down on it, a pink-red energy starts flowing out of it. Gathering the qi into his own dantian, Tianqin tells her that the method for refining essence and transforming qi is to gather it into the dantian and nourish it with water and fire, and the initial qi is born. He then tells her to forcefully break through the three gates, Weilu, Jiaji, and Yezhen. She also starts gathering qi in her dantian. As she does so, she tells him that her backside feels stuffy. She then suddenly passes gas and soon realizes how embarrassing of a thing she did. With a gentle smile on his face, Tianqin reassures her and tells her to not be embarrassed by it, as it is a sign of breaking through the three gates, and that will lead to various kinds of discomfort. He continues further and tells her to be ready, because he's now going to help her break through first. She then suddenly feels a warm sensation spreading through her body from her head to her toes. With a cheerful smile on her face, she asks him if it worked, and if the effect of dual cultivation is supposed to be this simple and fast. Taking out the golden emblem from his mouth, he tells her that though the dual cultivation method seems very simple, it's actually very difficult to succeed. As he calmly continues being seated on his lap, he tells her that it is because during the process, the two cultivators must have complete trust in each other to proceed. And when he first began his cultivation journey, everyone was selfish and wary of others. He then mentions how people could trust another with their entire heart and soul were far too rare, and how it sometimes could turn from dual cultivation into a dual killing plundering scenario at any moment. Innocently looking at him, she asks him how he just completely trusts her so much right after descending to the mortal world. With a warm expression on his face, Tianchen looks at her and informs her how his sea of consciousness retains all the memories concerning her, and that it was his incarnation that wronged her. Yet in his eyes, she is a treasure. Biting onto the golden emblem, he says that it's about time for her to help him break through. While at Huan's side, she's currently playing in the sandbox, building up some sort of sculpture in it. The corpse of Brother Hui suddenly appears right behind Huan while emitting a dark purple aura from his body. As they continue with their dual cultivation, Tianchen suddenly feels something odd. Tianchen then informs his wife of the enemy being near them, hearing that she gets concerned about Huan's safety first. As she decides to run off to Huan first, Tianchen stops her and tells her to hold on to him tightly and not move, and to continue to focus on helping him to break through the barrier and leave the rest to him. As Brother Hui's corpse is just about to attack Huan, Tianchen appears and kicks him back away from Huan. As he arrives there holding his wife, Huan runs to him mentioning that she's scared of the monster in front of her. Tianchen calmly responds and tells her to stand behind her and cover her eyes, and that he will protect her no matter what. Hearing that, Huan simply heeds to it. Brother Hui then stands up staggeringly while emitting a dark purple aura. Looking at the body, Tianchen realizes that it's a refined corpse, and the one behind him has finally made a move. In a sudden leap, Brother Hui lunges at Tianchen with both his arms open. Tianchen then throws a powerful punch at its chest while holding onto his wife in one hand, but that punch doesn't seem to have much of an effect on it. As it continues moving forward through Tianchen's hand, it makes him think that the trouble with refined corpses is that they don't feel fear, neither death nor pain, while fighting with a suicidal determination to take their opponent down. It then grabs Tianchen's arm and decides to attack him with his sharp nails. As the attack was just about to hit him, he breaks through to the Q refining realm. With the force from breaking through, he attacks it with his newly found power. As it gets defeated, it falls to the ground. Turning his gaze to his wife, he asks her if she's okay, to which she replies by saying that she is. Hiding behind the sandhill she made inside the sandbox, Huan asks her parents if they defeated the monster already. With a smile on their faces, they both turn back and cheerfully reply saying that they have and she can come out of hiding. Looking at the refined corpse of Brother Hui, she asks Tianchen if it's Brother Hui and also what happened to him, to which Tianchen replies by saying that he has been turned into a refined corpse. Standing near it, she asks him if he's like the zombies shown on TV. Looking at it, Tianchen tells her how a zombie won't be that easy to defeat, and that it is just a corpse puppet made by extracting a living person's soul and refining their essence. Suddenly, a person appears clapping from somewhere. C then appears from behind, then clapping for them. He stands there and commends him for managing to destroy his refined corpse and make a conclusion that he's also from the mystic sect. And that makes it acceptable how he was able to defeat that fierce dog so badly. Tianchen then looks back at his wife and daughter and tells them to go back into the house. Heeding his command, his wife tells him to be careful. As his wife runs back into the house holding their child, Z looks at his wife's figure in awe. He then comments how it's such a waste that a minor cultivator like Tianchen was able to get his hands on such a furnace vessel with such high potential. Without waiting any further, Tianchen suddenly appears right below him, ready to punch him with full power. He then punches him with his Grandmaster Realm's full output. Before his attack could reach him, one of his refined corpses swung their sword at him, which he easily dodged by leaping backwards. That refined corpse then jumps at Tianchen with his sword, ready to slash at him. The refined corpse then swings down his sword at him, which Tianchen easily dodges. With a simple yet powerful pack strike, Tianchen disintegrates its body while he takes his sword for himself. Wiping off his sweat, Tianchen asks if it's the Yishan soldiers and asks Z as to what other trick he has under his sleeves. Letting out a laugh, Z mocks him for having to fight with his life on the line just to take down a casually made refined corpse and a minor Yishan soldier. And now he's even dreaming of fighting against him. With a grin forming on his face, he tells him that he's going to show him the insurmountable gap between him, a wild cultivator, and an heir of a true orthodox lineage. Letting out his blood-red aura, he calls on his refined corpse army as they emerge from the ground behind him, as he says it out loud how he has lost a dog under his command. As the refined corpse army finally stands on the ground, he continues with his speech and tells him that if he obediently hands over his wife and daughter to him and then gets on his knees and licks his shoes clean, then he might just grant him a chance to become his dog. As per his command, the refined corpse army lunge at Tianchen with their weapons. As Tianchen stands there smiling lightly, the refined corpse army comes to a half in midair. To his surprise, the refined corpse of Brother Hui is still in work and is currently grabbing onto Z's throat while holding him up in the air. With blood coming out of his mouth and nose, he questions how it is even possible for him to refine a corpse when he follows the path of Yang Qi, and he then thinks to himself as to why this refined corpse is so strong. Tianchen then walks towards Z and tells him that what he did is the true orthodox method of refining corpses. Merging a yin child with the corpse's body enhances its mobility and attack power. With the golden emblem embedded in his chest, he holds Guy up in the air as he screams out in frustration and asks him if he really thinks this much is enough to suppress him and informs him that he has now lost his chance to be his dog. He furiously yells at him and says that his body is a treasure trove in itself. He then bites his thumb and smears the blood in his forehead, creating a line with it. He then tells him to be prepared for what's about to come. Suddenly, a purple color aura covers his whole body in the form of a worm. This aura is of the golden silkworm Qi shield. With the golden silkworm Qi shield surrounding his body, he laughs as if he is about to win this fight. Before he could attack, Tianchen leaps diagonally in order to attack him first as he taps into the full potential of the martial Dao Grandmaster. Focusing all his strength into his finger, he seals Xy's acupoints and severs his meridians as he breaks through his golden silkworm Qi shield. With the markings setting onto his skin from Tianchen's finger, he groans in pain. After getting hit in his acupoints and meridians, he falls into his knees in front of Tianchen. He then looks up at him and yells, saying that he's asking for a cruel, merciless death. He then rips open his shirt, and a stamp-like locket comes into picture while Z continues to murmur that he's going to kill Tianchen. Pathetically kneeling in front of, He stubbornly denies to admit defeat and holds up the stamp-like locket in his hand and calls out to the yin spirits of the 9 hells to heed his command. Before he could even finish his chanting, Tianchen, bored from waiting for him to finish his chanting, suddenly slaps him across his face, knocking him out cold with just one slap. As he lies there on the ground unconscious, he looks at Z and asks his unconscious body if the remnant sects of this Dharma-ending age have grown dumber over the years. He then blankly mocks Z for trying to chant a spell and summon spirits at the critical moment of facing an enemy. He then looks at the staggering refined corpse of Brother Hui and tells it that it's time for it to get to work and earn its keep. Suddenly a knock is heard on the door of Tianchen's house. Standing inside are his wife and daughter. Afraid that it might be the enemy, they don't answer any time before Tianchen himself announces that it's him. With a smile on his face, he looks at his wife and tells her that it's all taken care of. With worry showing on her face, she asks him why he brought the refined corpse of Brother Hui and his boss to his house. Trying to hide behind her mother, Huan mentions that she is really scared that the monster is back once again. Patting her head, Tianchen tells her that she need not be afraid as he has become very well behaved currently and will listen to whatever she tells him to. Hearing that, Huan asks him if it's telling the truth, to which Tianchen replies by telling to give it a try herself. Looking at the refined corpse of Brother Hui, Huan asks if it can make a finger heart for her. Heeding to her command, he does so as he was asked. With sparkly eyes, Huan mentions how it seems so fun. She then asks him to do a handstand for her. Once again, heeding to get commands, the refined corpse of Brother Hui does what he is asked to. Looking at the unconscious body of Z, his wife asks him why he brought him inside their house. Tianchen then mentions how spiritual energy is thin in this era and that spiritual treasures are all almost extinct. He then says how they belong to the remnant lineage from Yishan Mountain, with their traditions lost, but they still possess 1,000 years of accumulated foundation. Looking at Z's unconscious body, he continues how this guy should be the heir of this cultivation lineage, and that he has already reached the peak of qi condensation and his body is full of vital essence, which can help them rapidly advance their realm. Wearing a warm smile on his face, he looks back at his wife and mentions that his entire body is a treasure in itself, and tells her that he'll see if he can forget some sort of powerful magical artifacts from it to deal with other enemies and to protect Huan. As Z is held tied to a chair, he finally starts to gain consciousness after a while. After having gained consciousness, he looks up at Tianchen and asks him as to how dare he tie him up like this. He then calls him for being a rogue cultivator, and still, he dared to touch his Z family of the Southeast. As Z continues to spout nonsense, Tianchen, annoyed by his constant bickering, tells him to shut up and pushes a dirty sock into his mouth. His eyes then fall on the pathetic state of the refined corpse of Brother Hui, reduced to being a make-do horse which Huan rides as it is fun for her. Tianchen then stands in front of him and tells him that it's about time he found out what useful treasures he has on him. Tianchen then pulls out his locket from his neck. Looking at the locket in his hand, his wife asks him why he is wearing his seal on him. Looking at the seal in his hand, Tianchen tells her that it is a magic seal, which is used to establish a contract with the yin demons of the 9 hells, and that it can both summon and exorcise ghosts. And for powerful ghosts and spirits, one cannot subdue themselves. They must pay a price to summon them for their use. As he continues how everything about this magic seal is good, but the craftsmanship of this ghost summoning seal is too crude, and that it can't summon any powerful ghostly beings. As he speaks, Z just silently listens to him. Pushing out the dirty sock out of his mouth, Z calls his theory nonsense and him an ignorant fool, and tells him that this magic seal is a treasure passed down in their Z family for generations. He then tells him that this treasure has been worshipped for hundreds of years and can summon a ferocious ghost king that wreaks havoc in the mortal world, and then asks him if he really does not know how terrifyingly deep their Z family's foundation is. Tired from hearing his nonsense, Tianqin slaps him across his face, making him spit blood. With a glare in his eyes, he looks at Tianqin once again and asks him if he dared to hit him again. Showing that he dared, Tianqin slaps him again, and this time his slap makes tears come out of his eyes. Holding the Ghost King worship seal in hand, Tianqin rates it as of low quality. He then pulls out the golden silkworm chi shield from his forehead and rates it as low quality too. Tianqin then takes off his belt, as it is not an ordinary belt, but the soul bewitching belt, which is a spiritual type of magic artifact. He then checks his blazer's inside pockets and finds a stack of Yin Mountain Soldier talismans. He then opens up his shirt only to find him wearing an ancient female undergarment. It is also no normal female undergarment, but it is a piece of golden light talisman. Treasure undergarment, which is a defensive type of magic artifact. They suddenly then find a black bank card in his wallet and mention how neither of them has ever seen one with such a color. With a grin forming on his face, he says that it's a VIP black card, something bottom-dwelling peasants who live in shacks could never own in several lifetimes, and that it also has no limit of how much more one can spend through it. He then tells that if they let him go, then he'll just give his VIP black card. Throwing his wallet away, Tianqin tells him that it won't take long for people to scramble over each other and offer it to them. Yi looks at their back as they talk about his treasures while Tianqin keeps mentioning how its quality is too poor and that it's still better than having nothing. She suddenly lets a fly out of his mouth. As the fly quietly leaves behind them, Tianqin tells his wife to stop admiring the lowly products and that it's about time to deal with the biggest treasure they are left with. He then points at Z sitting there on the chair, pantless. Tianqin then tells her that the essence of a peak qi refining cultivator is a truly nourishing treasure medicine for other cultivators. He continues that it's not easy for someone his age to reach to peak of qi refining, and he must have harvested essence of many people. With a worried look on his face, he stutteringly asks him what he is trying to do to him. Tianqin simply replies by saying that he's only harvesting him the way he harvested others, as that would be a fair thing to do. Xi then argues back with him and raises his voice against him, calling him an ignorant fool, and he then mentions that he has no idea how deep his Xe family's foundation is, and that if his father, grandmother, or any of their family elders could crush him to death. To get him to shut up, Tianqin elbows him, making him spit blood. With a worried expression on her face, she asks Tianqin if they will have to absorb his vital essence like how they did it earlier, mouth to mouth. Tianqin smiles down and asks his wife if he could ever even let him have it that easy. While standing in front of his tied body, Tianqin says that besides the bedroom arts, method of plucking and supplementing, and the Sha children essence stealing method that Z used, masters who have reached a certain level of cultivation can use the star-absorbing technique to directly extract it from the target's body. Finally, understanding Tianqin's words, she said that she read something like that in wuxia novels too, and that they should then hurry up and start absorbing, and mentions how she originally thought that this move was a little evil, but she doesn't feel any guilt at all for draining a scoundrel like him dry. Looking at his wife, Tianqin says that their current level is still far too low, and they must use the method of dual cultivation to achieve the same effect as the star-absorbing technique at their level, and that they should start right away without wasting any more time. With a blush forming on her face, she asks him if they still have to use those weird positions. Holding her close, Tianchen tells her that it won't the case this time and explains to her about the principle of star-absorbing technique, saying that it's a strange phenomena that originally occurs when the foundations of two cultivators clash and their auras surge against each other. He then continues that those two auras are originally released outward, forming a powerful vortex which in turn causes the body's acupoints to generate an extremely strong suction force, forcibly extracting the target's vital essence from their physical body. She then asks him if it's just like cupping therapy in their world. Looking at her, Tianchen says that according to the information his incarnation has about the modern world, her theory is correct. And so they kiss, activating the dual cultivation assault, star-absorbing technique. Holding his hand against him, Tianchen then starts absorbing his vital essence. As they hold their kiss while golden veins pop on them, Tianchen tells her to hold on, and that taking in a large amount of vital essence will impact her meridians, and that she should follow his guidance and channel the newly absorbed vital essence into their respective seas of qi. Moving on to the Z family's ancient residence, a butler is walking hastily towards his master and informs him that something bad has happened to the young master. His master then looks at him and calls him impudent for interfering when he is with a guest. The Buddhist monk sitting beside the Z family head tells him that he doesn't mind, and that Steward Zhang has always been a prudent man. He then points out that something must have happened if he's in such a rush. The monk then looks in the direction of Steward Zhang and asks him if young Master C encountered some sort of disaster. Looking away, Steward Zhang hesitates to answer. The family head then orders Steward Zhang to just speak plainly as the Great Master himself is asking. Bowing his head in front of his family head, he says that the child bug of the young master's personal mother child, Thousand Lice Spider, flew back. He then mentions that he asked the attendants about the young master's whereabouts. Looking down, Steward Zhang then says that the young master happened upon a rogue trying to sell his daughter. Angered by that, he left his attendants behind, wanting to act alone and uphold justice, but unexpectedly, that rogue turned out to be a low-level evil qi-refining cultivator and has trapped the young master. With slight worry showing on his face, Steward Zhang says that the young master's current status is unknown. Slamming his hand, the family head stands up and orders Steward Zhang to quickly release the child bug to lead him to his son. Standing up, the Great Master says how he has watched little nephew C grow up, and that he's been well-mannered and clever since childhood. He then says how his little nephew Z has done him a great favor this time. He says he must repay him and asks to be let this matter given to him to handle. The family head puts his hands together and says that since the Great Master himself has made the offer, he'll not be polite and lets take it into his own hands and thanks him in advance for troubling him to look after his son. With a dried-up, old-age, wrinkled face, he screams at Tianchen while cursing at him as to how dare he destroy his foundation and steal his foundation. Stretching her body, his wife mentions how great it feels to her. With her hands up in the air, she mentions how she can even hear Huan's voice playing in the small park. Looking at her with a smile on his face, Tianchen says that as her realm advances, her spiritual sense perception will naturally be greatly enhanced. With a surprised tone, Z says that Tianchen has already reached the peak of Qi refining realm and might break through at any moment. With a sly smile on his face, Tianchen says that he is excited to see what kind of catch-the-bait Z released will bring them. With a hint of confusion and worry showing on his face, he asks Tianchen how he knows what he did. Tianchen looks back at him and mockingly says as to how dare he try to show off in front of him for trying to use spirit insects for messaging so ostentatiously, and that if he planned on doing so, then he should have mixed hundreds of mother-child spiders among thousands of spirit insects to cover his tracks. Laughing like a mad person, Z asks him if he's an idiot, and continues with saying how extremely precious mother-child spiders are, and how exceptionally difficult to cultivate, and that only the main family members can carry a pair, one mother and one child, and he's saying to use thousands of them. Tianchen then slaps him across his face, telling him to stop being so noisy. Walking away from Z, he tells his wife that they should make some preparations for the incoming guests. He then continues and tells her that the upcoming enemies will likely be at the foundation establishment stage or higher. Although she and him are at the peak of Shi refining, facing a foundation establishment expert is like a child fighting an adult, and that defeat is certain if they're bare-handed. She then asks him what they should do if victory isn't guaranteed like this. Looking back at her, he says that the outcome of a cultivation battle depends on the realm. But a magical duel is slightly different, and besides the realm, the magical artifacts and strategy can also change the outcome. He then says that if both an adult and a child are holding bladed weapons, although the child is at a disadvantage with the odds against him, he can still win. But if the child has a weapon from the current era called a gun, then the child and the adult are evenly matched. His wife then points out, asking if the child's weapon is much better than the adult's, then victory is guaranteed. Holding the Ghost King's seal, Tianchen says that she's correct, and that these magical artifacts they have now are fine for dealing with cultivators of the same rank. But they're useless against a foundation establishment opponent. He continues saying that he'll simply just modify these artifacts just in case. And so, after following the child bug steward Zhang and the Great Master arrive near Tianchen's house, the Great Master then activates his Buddhist divine art, the Heavenly Eye X-ray vision. Seeing through the houses, he says that he sees two cultivators, a man and a woman who are both in the peak of Qi refining realm, and a child riding a strange refined corpse, and he then labels the man, Tianchen, as a demonic cultivator. Steward Zhang turns to face the Great Master and asks him about the condition of his young master. Looking through the houses again, the Great Master says that though the young master is still alive, his aura is faint and that his foundation was forcibly stolen by some sort of demonic art. Tianchen soon feels that someone is spying on them and asks while looking in the direction of the Great Master if it's the Heavenly Eye, and says further that they're faster than he expected them to be. Putting his hands together, Steward Zhang requests the Great Master to save his young master from the demonic cultivator. The Great Master suddenly vanishes and appears right in front of Tianchen in an instant. Standing there in front of Tianchen, the Great Master thinks to himself how strange this person standing in front of him is, though he's in just the peak of Qi refining realm, but his spiritual sense is so profound that he himself cannot even see through it at all. Standing in front of Tianchen, he slightly bows his head. The Great Master introduces himself, saying that his name is Bu Ming, and that he has come to ask him to return the young master of the Z family and to repent before it's too late for him to. With a blank expression on his face, Tianchen thinks to himself, mocking the Great Master in his head, calling him out for using the "lay down your butcher knife and instantly become a Buddha," preaching from the Western teachings. Continuing with his blank expression, Tianchen says that the Great Master is a reasonable person and has not directly attacked. He continues saying that the young Master C wants to. She is his daughter to cultivate evil arts and even wants to kill his wife and him to silence them, and so he fought back with his own life on the line. He then asks the Great Master as to what he intends to do. Standing behind the Great Master is Steward Zhang. He calls Tianchen an evil deviant and accuses him of spreading falsehood by twisting the story, and that his daughter is completely unharmed, and how dare he slander his young master. The great master then speaks, saying that his young nephew C has always been civil and polite since childhood. He then claims how this person in front of him has a one-sided account, and there are evil course refinance that they have never seen, and he asks as to how can anyone believe him in a situation like this. Wearing an ominous and creepy smile on his face, he asks him to release him quickly, and he will uphold the heavenly virtue of cherishing life as long as he releases him, and will only just cripple his entire cultivation. And he will also need to hand over all evil artifacts he had with him, and then he will grant him a path to life. With a straight, blank, and unbothered expression, Tianchen calls him out, mocking his way of speaking of benevolence, righteousness, and morality in a muddled, confused, and ignorant way to approach it. Pointing to his team behind him, with his wife holding the knife to Z's throat, he tells him that he is in his hands, and if he attacks, then he will take his life and they will perish together. Pointing at Tianchen, Steward Zhang raises his voice at him and calls him a common thug for his despicable scheme, saying that his young master's body is worth 1,000 gold, and if he dares to harm him, then he himself will make him pay for it with his life. Maintaining his calm demeanor, the Great Master says that if his opponent doesn't wish to stand back, then he can only act with the wrath of Avara, subdue demons and devils, capture them all, and then make further plans. He then turns his gaze towards Tianchen's wife and tells her that if she harms his nephew's life, then he will annihilate them all right here, right now. To his surprise, the Great Master decides to attack Tianchen first. The Great Master then grabs Tianchen by his throat. Tianchen thinks to himself that the trap has been set, and how the Great Master is hesitant and dares not to kill him with full force, and that he only wants to capture him as a bargaining chip, and that with the current situation he can stand in an invincible position. Still maintaining his calm demeanor, the Great Master says that he believes that the person he's holding onto by his throat now understands the difference between them, and before he could finish his sentence, a sword comes swinging at him. Standing beside him is a Yin soldier who swung his sword at the Great Master, which he instantly reacts to by dodging. The Great Master then appears a couple of meters away from them, holding Steward Zhang by his collar in one hand. Wearing a shocked expression on his face, Steward Zhang asks him if he can also summon a Yin soldier. Soon he realizes that it's not a normal Yin soldier but a ghost general. As two more Yin soldiers lunge at him, the Great Master commends how his opponent indeed has some abilities, and it's now understandable why his young nephew fell for his tricks, even with his high cultivation. With a hint of confidence in his voice, he says that a ghost general is nothing in front of him. He blocks their sword attacks with his golden bell shield. As he does so, the ghost general attacks his golden bell shield with his sword. Using his great compassionate palm strike, he disintegrates the body of the ghost general, along with the other Yin soldiers. With excitement visible on his face, Steward Zhang says that a mere ghost general is nothing to behold in front of a Foundation establishment mid-stage master. To his surprise, Tianchen throws the Ghost King's seal right into his palm. Suddenly, a ghastly palm emerges from it and grabs the Great Master by his throat. With a small grin forming on his face, Tianchen says that the Ghost General earlier was simply just a means to buy time to summon this thing. A demonic being appears in view, holding the Great Master by his throat. In a surprised tone, the Great Master exclaims by asking if this demonic being in front of him the Ghost King himself. With a surprised expression on his face, Steward Zhang talks to himself, asking if this is the Ghost King their Sea family has nourished for years, and how he is able to summon it. With a grin forming on his face, Tianchen says that the 5 immortals of heaven, earth, man, God, and ghost, if he wants them to work for him, then he must bind them with desire, baiting them with what they wish for, and this principle is eternally unchanging. Standing there with a surprised look on his face, Steward Zhang thinks to himself why this is happening, and that the Great Master is clearly stronger than the Ghost King, so why he is so easily getting subdued by him. Struggling from getting held by his throat, the Great Master thinks to himself, realizing how Tianchen lured him into capturing him without killing. And then he immediately used the Yin generals to trick him into attacking to expel evil. And while he couldn't evade, he had the Ghost King strike his vital point. Looking at Tianchen's smiling face, he continues that if it weren't for that, then the Ghost King could only fight him to a standstill. He commends him in his mind for thinking up such a meticulous setup for him, and despite looking young, his schemes are unfathomable and truly terrifying. Holding the Great Master with his left hand, the Ghost King thrusts into him with his right hand. He then pulls out a green-colored orb from his body. With a grin forming on his face, he calls it the Foundation Establishment Treasure Liquid. As he is just about to eat it, Tianchen speaks from behind telling him to not eat it, and that the Foundation Establishment Treasure Liquid is for him. Hearing that, he suddenly lets go of the Great Master and rushes towards Tianchen, putting his sharp claws right against his throat. With a stern expression on his face, the Ghost King says that the item he gave him was only in exchange for his single move, and if weren't for that, then he would have swallowed him whole, along with his wife and daughter, just for injuring his Z family descendant. He then asks as to how he still dares to order him around. Looking at Wright with a straight, confident expression, he says that the profound yin transforming yang great method he gave him can help him break through the bottleneck of the middle grade Ghost King, and he then asks him if he knows what else he can give him. The Ghost King then mentions that there are fewer than 100 cultivators that can reach Foundation Establishment, and with such treasure medicine plus the ghost cultivation method he gave him, he can reach the top green Ghost King within a single cultivation session. Wearing a surprised expression on his face, he asks him as to what else could be more valuable than this Foundation Establishment treasure liquid. Pushing aside his arm, he walks forward to his ear and tells him that the method to break through from being a Ghost King to a Ghost Venerable realm would be something more valuable than the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid in his eyes. With the surprised look in his eyes, he denies that it is not possible, saying that, as such a method has been lost for 1,000 years, and he could possibly not have something like that at all. Tianchen then points his finger at Steward Zhang and the Great Master and tells him that once he is done dealing with them, he will soon send him a message, and then he can judge for himself whether his words are true or not. With a stern but straight expression visible on his face, the Ghost King throws the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid into his hand. Returning back into the seal, the Ghost King says, if what he mentioned turns out to be false, then he will not let him off easily at all. As the Ghost King's seal floats in his hand, Tianchen thinks to himself how the current cultivators in the age of Dharma decline are arrogant and conceited, and that he will give him the best ghost cultivation method, and once comes out from seclusion will be the day he will become his ghost slave. Looking at Steward Zhang holding on to the Great Master, Tianchen tells him to inform his master of everything that happened today, and if he wants his son back, then will need to exchange it with something of equal value, else he can just say goodbye to his one and only son. With a stern expression visible on his face, Steward Zhang tells him that he will have to name a price first for him to report it accurately. Maintaining the straight blank expression on his face, Tianchen tells him that they can decide how much he is worth and then prepare that amount for him. Turning back, Steward Zhang commends him for being skilled at bargaining in the marketplace, and that he will certainly relay his exact words truthfully without any lie or deceit, and that he will have to be careful to not burn himself while playing with fire, as he has offended both the Z family of Southwest and the Lotus sect. Seeing them return, Tianchen walks back towards his house, holding the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid in his hand. As he enters his house, Huan's gazes fall over the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid, seeing that she excitedly asks her father what kind of treasure this beautiful-looking bright ball is. Looking at cheerful, excited face, Tianchen answers by saying that this is the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid condensed in the Dantian by a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator. With a shocked expression on his face, Z says that it's not possible for Great Master to have been defeated by someone like him, as he is an elder of the Lotus Sect's Demon Subduing Hall, a high-level Foundation Establishment mid-stage master. Having broken through to the Qi condensation stage, Tianchen uses an aerial palm strike to slap him from a distance. Leaning towards the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid, his wife asks him if they are going to use this Foundation Establishment treasure liquid for their dual cultivation this time. Looking at her, Tianchen commends her, saying how she's getting more and more skilled. With a deep blush forming across her face, she says that it's because it's getting comfortable for her. With a flustered expression, she says that she's trying to earnestly ask him for advice, to which Tianchen replies by saying that he is also earnestly praising her. Holding her mother's shorts, Huan calls her and asks her as to why her face looks so red. With the blush still visible on her face, she tells Huan that it's late and that she should hurry up and go to sleep. Huan's mother holds her as she takes her to the bed while explaining that she and Huan's father need to work overtime to improve their strength so that they can protect Huan from the bad people all by themselves. Innocently, Huan asks her mother if her improvement is comfortable, hearing that suddenly strikes a chord in her. Letting out a flustered laugh, her mother tells her that it is all going really well and her improvement is really comfortable. Putting her daughter on the bed, she tells her that they are working harder so that they can become stronger than ever, and then they both can protect her so that she won't be taken away from them by the bad people. With an innocent smile on her face, she says that they should do their best and improve comfortably and become so strong that nobody would ever dare to even look her way. Falling onto the pillow, she happily says that she's already asleep and promises that she won't open her eyes at all. Waking towards Tianchen after putting their daughter to sleep, his wife looks back at their sleeping daughter and lets out a sigh while smiling. Getting into another strange position, his wife awkwardly says that this dual cultivation Foundation Establishment posture is too strange. Lying below his wife, Tianchen says that this method is to open a divine ability called the injury-free gate before Foundation Establishment. Looking back at the husband's face, she asks if they can absorb the Foundation Establishment treasure liquid like how they did with the golden emblem. Holding her back in his hand, Tianchen says that from Qi, refining to Foundation Establishment, the Qi flowing through the meridians needs to be condensed into a treasure liquid, and currently, their bodies are filled with Qi. So following the conventional Foundation Establishment process might take them over a decade. He then continues saying that if their body isn't strong enough, it'll be like a balloon, and with too much pressure, it will cause all meridians to burst. Even explains that the Z family killed from the remnant Yin Mountain lineage is already at the peak of Qi refining and wants to snatch Huan, and that he intended to use the Yin Mountain method to bypass the body refinement and forcefully enter the Foundation Establishment realm. Even mentions that this time, by cultivating to open the injury-free gate divine ability, their physical bodies can constantly recover even if they're injured. Finally understanding what he's trying to say, his wife asks if what he's trying to say is that if the balloon leaks, then it can immediately recover and the meridians won't explode. Tianchen replies by saying, "That's exactly what it is, and this cultivation requires eliminating all district thoughts." He then tells her that when their carnal desires and sensations are elevated to the extreme, the treasure medicine produced within the bodies will then unlock the effects of some hidden, injury-free divine abilities within them. Looking back at her husband's face, she asks if their bodies are really that miraculous. Tianchen then replies by saying that like fine jade, if no one recognizes it, it's just a common stone, and that without personal transmission, no one can know the true treasure lying within oneself. Tianchen then presses the key erogenous point, the Shen Shu meridian right above her waist, saying that it's about time they begin. Right after that, his wife suddenly lets out a loud moan, and suddenly her head falls down in an instant. Right after that, Tianchen starts getting a little bit aroused as he thinks to himself what this feeling is that can actually make his great Luodao heart shake so violently. With an expression of unparalleled satisfaction and pure bliss visible on their faces, Tianchen thinks to himself as to why this is so comfortable like this, and that this is his first time doing foundation establishment with this method, and he has never had such an experience before, and it's incredibly enjoyable. Both their eyes start emitting a golden light while his wife, making a blissful expression, says that she can't take it anymore, and that this method is much more comfortable and enjoyable than the previous dual cultivation method they used. It's too much for her, and she can't stand it anymore. And suddenly streams of golden blue aura emerges from their private areas. Realizing that, Tianchen tells his wife that the treasure medicine is out, and that she should quickly gather it. And soon, both Tianchen and his wife consume the treasure medicine emitting from their private areas. With a confused look on his face, Z thinks to himself as to what they are doing, and what this injury-free divine ability even is, as he has never once heard of such a divine ability existing. Weakened after having his foundation establishment treasure liquid stolen, the great master lies on bed as he mentions that this child is not old and his realm is not high, but his mind is deep and cunning, and mentions how he has never seen such a profoundly evil and unfathomable person in his years of subduing demons and devils. With a concerned look on his face, the family head asks the great master if he knows anything about this young man's inherited lineage. Suddenly, a woman enters the room by kicking open its door, asking the family head, Si Baoking, about her son's whereabouts and which old person is it whose lifespan is running out that he dared to kidnap her precious son. Looking back at his wife, he says that the great master was seriously injured saving their son, and that she shouldn't try to make a scene here in his respect. The family head then walks towards her, saying that they should go outside and talk, without disturbing the great master. Pointing her finger at her husband, she calls him by his name and mocks how he can't even handle a rogue cultivator, and even let her Din suffer such a great humiliation, and asks him what good a dignified Ghost King sect master like him is. The family head, irritatedly, raises his voice at her, asking why she's trying to cause a fuss in here. Slamming his hand on his throne's handle, he says that it is all because she usually spoils him too much. Crossing her arms, she says that his temperament is impetuous. He doesn't understand scheming and was actually blocked by some kid who doesn't know death and even extorted their Z family. She mentions how Sun carries the inheritances of both Wen Mountain and Ghost King sect, and his progress is all what matters. With an agitated look on her face, she says that with their Si and Chen families paving the way for him, he will hold great power, status, and fame in the near future.